from the basis of stories and evidence and background, now is the time that we start to move into action in our own communities. And I have to say, we have the best closeout that you could imagine for exactly that topic. Today, we have a true hero with us, Desmond Meade. I had a chance to meet him in 2016. And at that time, if you were a returning citizen, and a returning citizen is someone formerly convicted of a felony offense, if you were a returning citizen, you faced a lifetime ban on voting in Florida. And so Desmond could not vote. Because he couldn't vote himself, he asked us to make sure we never missed an election. And I really, really took that to heart. Well, 2 short years later, in 2018, Desmond led the coalition that re-enfranchised 1.4 million returning citizens. And in 2020, he was able to vote in his first presidential election. From being homeless to being named Time Magazine's most 100 influential people in the world for leading the largest expansion of voting rights in 50 years, his story shows how our grit and determination can help make a difference, and that placing people over politics sits at the heart of what a healthy democracy is all about. So let's show some reactions, some claps, and give it up for Desmond Meade.
Thank you so much, Aaliyah. How am I sounding? Can you hear me well?
Say something again.
How is my sound? Can you hear me well?
Much better now. Great.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, thank you for the introduction. It's definitely an honor to participate in this conference with Vot-ER. You know, I'm sitting here and I'm actually in my bus, in our tour bus, Free to Vote bus tour. We've been going around the state of Florida, signing people up for the fines and fees help, registering people to vote. The point that I was trying to make was that water is such a vital part of my health, right? And I never really appreciated that. And you would think, oh, it's just water, right? It doesn't mean that much. It's, you know, there's nothing fancy or special about water. But even in the plainness of water, right, there has so much healing qualities, and it plays such an important role in your health. And I say that because sometimes we look at voting, oh, it's just voting, you know, oh, yeah, folks are registering to vote. What's the big deal? You know, I'm registered, that's what matters. But our democracy needs voting now more than ever, right? And voting, we look at voting as that water. It could be plain, but yet it's so powerful. Now you may be looking like, well, why is this guy, you know, talking about water, right? And his eyes are growing big. I think I would say the reason is because I have a level of excitement about voting and about democracy that was earned by the pain and misery that I went through, right? It was a type of pain and misery that was caused with my drug addiction. It was caused by me being homeless. It was caused by me being caught up in the criminal justice system. And that pain and that misery, it led me to railroad tracks in August of 2005, where I found standing in South Florida, in Dade County, on a hot, humid August day, waiting on a train to come so I can jump in front of it and end my life. You know, at that point, you know, at that moment that I was there, you know, I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel, and I was ready to end it. But God had other plans, and that train never came. But anyway, you know, we decided to do something about it, and we launched the ballot initiative to restore voting rights to people with felony convictions. Along the way, my wife, Sheena, she ran for office. And, you know, I was so caught up in her campaign that it didn't even hit me until someone approached me like a month before the election and said, I know, Desmond, you're happy that you're going to get to vote for your wife. And it was like they stuck a knife in my heart and twisted it to remind me that, wait a minute, I can't even vote for my own wife, right? And here I am, a person that has dedicated their life to giving back to their community and just trying to be an asset and doing all these good things, but yet I can't even vote for my own wife, right? Even though There are other states where people were able to vote from prison, and even in Puerto Rico, they was able to vote during the presidential preference primary from prison, and so many other states, and that was very. But here's the deal: my personal experience was not what drove me. It was that of others. Here I am now in Tampa, and I'm reminded of 2016 when I was engaged in early voting turnout efforts, and I ran across an elderly man named Mr. Charles who wanted to, he didn't think he could vote, and I showed him that we had his name on a list. And when I took him up, I escorted him. He had to drive to the polling location because his knees were too bad to walk. And I got him in the front of the line. And after waiting for quite some time, he comes out of the place, saying that no, they won't vote. And when I looked up and his case, I seen 8 years prior to that, this man was convicted of driving with a suspended license. And when I seen that, it really hit me. I was like, what the hell? This man reminded me of my father, and now this person can't vote because he had a driver with a suspended license conviction. The irony of it was that the voting location was directly across the street from a cemetery, right? And I remember when I was walking up earlier in the day, how I was telling some people that were filming a documentary that voting is the difference. This was back in 2016 now, that voting is literally the difference between life and death. And if nothing else, this pandemic have showed us how true that is, right? The consequences of our vote, right, is life or death. And that's huge. And then I have this man that reminds me of my father sitting in front of me, and I'm looking at him thinking in my head, this man is going to die before he gets an opportunity to vote. And I know that, man, we had to pass Amendment 4. And thankfully in 2018, November of 2018, we passed Amendment 4, right? We had over 5.1 million people that came together and voted yes on Amendment 4. A million more people voted for us than for the governor who won, or for the guy who won the governor's race. I remember walking out of there thinking, man, I need other people to feel that way. And that made us even just increase our efforts in getting as many of the returning citizens that we possibly could register to vote. And that meant that we raised from August to October, we raised over $27 million. $27 million, and we paid off fines and fees of over 44,000 people so that they're able to vote. And in that process, let me tell you what happened. One of our canvassers ran across this lady named Barbara. And we tried to register Barbara to vote, but Barbara had outstanding fines and fees, and so we were able to pay that off. By the time our canvassers went back to say, Barbara, we've paid your fines and fees, you can register to vote, she had visited her doctor, and her doctor told her she had 6 months to live. Just to know that there are people that's out there who care so much, have that yearning, have that desire to be a part of our democracy is enough to strengthen my resolve, right, to continue in the work that we're doing. But it's also enough to let each and every one of you all know that the importance of engaging folks and giving folks an opportunity, right? Giving folks hope that they can be a part of this democracy, that they can make a difference. The importance of this, right, is just as serious as the importance of choosing between life and death. It really is. When you're having people whose dying wishes are to be able to vote, and you have within the power, you have the power within your hands to engage someone in such a way that would give them an opportunity to plug into our democracy, that is amazing, that's powerful. And I just cannot stress enough how by creating a more inclusive democracy, a democracy in which more people are able to participate, that we're actually pumping life into our democracy. We're actually creating a more vibrant democracy. This is that nice, cool, refreshing water that our body craves for, that's what this voting thing is all about. That is what our democracy is craving for. And I want you all to understand, first of all, to thank you for the work that you all have already been doing around engaging folks around voter registration, but to also encourage you to do more, encourage you to turn it up a notch, right? Because we're seeing what's going on in our country and throughout this nation with efforts to minimize participation in democracy. And we're going to need champions. We're going to need guardians of democracy like each and every one of you all can be, to step it up and use your superpowers, use your ER powers, right, to strengthen our democracy. And so I'm going to turn it right back over to Alister, right, because he's going to tell you all how you can actually use that superpower that you have to create a more vibrant and inclusive democracy that's good for every one of y'all. So thank you all once again for inviting me. I apologize for the technical glitches. I'm going to say it's not on me. All right, my strength is great here. So I don't know what's going on, but I love you all. I love the work that you're doing. And if there's anything I could ever do to assist you all, please do not hesitate to ask me. Alister, take it away, man.
Desmond, you are a force of nature, a legend, a civil rights hero, and it's such a pleasure to have you here, my brother. It is, we have just started building. We just met maybe about 2 or 3 months ago, and I'm just looking forward to 20 years when we're both heavier and older, and we can kick back and talk about the good that we were able to do back throughout these years and really reminisce. So thank you so much for being here, for being you, for providing me and all these other folks with inspiration and hope. And it's just been an incredible thing that you've been able to accomplish and what you represent to our country. So thank you so much, Desmond. Desmond is one of my civil rights heroes, icons, someone who I learned from at every juncture. And I want to introduce you to one other person who's got that level of gravitas, that sort of holds that space in my heart as a hero and a legend. And it's this woman named Frances Fox Piven, social worker, y'all. Started the conference off with the importance of social work. Gonna end the conference with the importance of social work. Frances Fox Piven was a professor of social work. She's probably still teaching, to be honest with you. She's 89. She is a firecracker, and she is a straight up legend. I want to pause there. If folks know what Frances Fox Piven was able to do, drop it in the chat. If not, I'm about to tell you an incredible story. Frances Fox Piven, through the early 1980s, led a grassroots movement called the Human Serve campaign with some of the folks who are still on this call, like Terry and Mimi. They were there, right there with her. The Human Serve campaign aimed to increase voter registration throughout this country. She went door to door at public and nonprofit agencies, persuading governors and mayors and folks who ran WIC agencies and unemployment offices and welfare offices to do one thing. And that was register poor people to vote. And over the course of the 80s, the work of her campaign, really over the course of 7, 8 years, was able to increase the numbers of folks who were able to register to vote by the hundreds of thousands, people who would have never had an opportunity to do so. Now, in 1993, her incredible grassroots energy converted into federal legislation, sustained policymaking. She got the National Voter Registration Act passed in 1993, which you've heard of because one of our panels was on the importance of the National Voter Registration Act. Why is this so important for us? It's important for us because it unlocked healthcare as an opportunity, as a place. It made it legal for voter registration to happen in hospitals, in clinics, in health centers. And it encouraged all kinds of nonprofit agencies to do voter registration, but it didn't make it mandatory. There's only one place that it made it mandatory, and that was the DMV. So I called up Frances Fox Piven last month. This is a woman who you can't get her on Zoom. She's the kind of woman who says, yeah, just call me sometime between 9 and 11:30 a.m. Here's my number. So I called her. I said, Frances, you are just an incredible light in my life. To be honest, the work that you've been able to do has unlocked the beginning of a really powerful movement where we're using healthcare providers to be effective messengers for the importance of voter registration. And really, we stand on your shoulders. But I got one question for you, Frances. Why DMVs? Of all the places where you could do mandatory voter registration, why would you choose DMVs when you're writing that piece of legislation? Poor people don't drive. And the types of people that are going to be registered at a DMV are not the types of folks who are most marginalized. So why DMVs? This was her response. It was a negotiation, Alister. We knew healthcare was an important place to register poor people to vote, and so did the opposition. They wanted to do mandatory voter registration in hospitals, in clinics, in health centers. They knew that that is where you would meet folks where they are at. And there was an incredible struggle, a fight over whether or not that could happen, and she had to negotiate. Well, do we want to do mandatory voter registration or not? And the opposition only allowed one place, and that was a place where poor people don't show up as often. And so what I'm driving to here is that who can vote and under what circumstances they can do so has always been contentious in this country. Always been contentious, and it still is. And really the work that you are all doing as physicians, as nurses, as social workers, as medical students, as folks in the healthcare community, you are fulfilling the true spirit of the NVRA. The folks who you are meeting on a day-to-day basis are the forgotten continent of our country, the 50 million who are not part of the electorate. You are the ones accessing them. You are the ones that can message to them. And we are the ones we've been waiting for to do this work. And the work comes across in various ways, like Dr. Steger using her kit every single day when it comes to registering her own patients to vote. It also looks like, medical students like Masa at Duke, who led her campaign team of medical students doing voter registrations in places like this, Bethel AME, which is a Black church, doing voter registration at COVID drive-through screening clinics. You heard about Masa earlier. And it's people like our 90 fellows who are part of the Civic Health Fellowship, who are doing this incredibly important sustaining work, building in community organizing and beginning to organize their communities. And it's organizations taking part in National Civic Health Month. Why? To promote the importance of voting at this very critical juncture that we have here in our country right now. And so it's morning in America here on our healthcare system. And I started the conversation with this fact that healthcare providers are waking up, physicians are waking up, nurses are waking up, social workers are waking up, medical students are waking up to their potential to fundamentally alter the trajectory of this country by helping those who are most vulnerable have a seat at the table. And we need you to be part of it. For organizations, join us for Civic Health Month. Many of you have already done so. We've got hundreds of organizations that are already involved in affirming the importance of voter access in the month of August. For our new healthcare providers and social workers, get your Healthy Democracy Kit. We'll drop a link in the chat so you have that, and it's easy for you to do so. For folks who are already involved with Vot-ER and want to take it to the next level, we want you on our team. And there are various ways that we can have your help doing this work, building out and sustaining this work moving forward. And so with that, it's been an incredible, incredible honor to have what is our first, I promise you, our first of many civic health conferences. And we are absolutely excited to continue doing this work with you and to continue building this vision out of what we can help to create as a healthy democracy together. Thank you all so much.